Super Rugby Power Rankings for round number 13. There's really becoming a bit of a pattern. There's definitely some movement. Most of it is in the middle of the pack, top and bottom, without spoiling it. Pretty similar. So we will start at the bottom. Number 15 are the Sunwolves. The Sunwolves 33-0 against the Brumbies. They get a bye next week, so they're not going to lose, and they have not looked the same team in the last month and a bit. So, yeah, we'll see if they can pick themselves back up, because it ain't working at the moment. So, whatever they do to change things up can probably only get better than 33-0, he says, perhaps a bit too optimistically. No, I'm not all that down and out on the Sunwolves, but they have been poor. I know they can do better, so we will see. Next, the Waratahs, down into 14th. They are down one spot from last week. They did have a close away loss to the Lions, but those losses are really starting to add up as well. The other teams in the Australian Conference have all made a push in recent weeks, like the Rebels quite some time ago, just came right recently. Brumbies have been on a good run. The Reds have had a decent run, although recent loss. But the Waratahs, it's not been there. That win over the Crusaders is looking like an age ago now. Speaking of an age ago now, do you remember that time the Blues had 4 wins in a row? Yeah, that was ages ago. So, yeah, the Blues are not looking very good either. That's my team. They did get a decent 40 minutes maybe out of that game against the Hurricanes, but they still lost. They still didn't get a bonus point. They did crack a bit under pressure when they were able to put the Canes under the pressure. The Canes just shored up that defense and were sure enough able to hold the Blues out. Next, and up 2 spots, are the Chiefs. The Chiefs get a win over a Sharks side that proved themselves pretty tough when they went into Christchurch and got a draw. So a wee bit of credit there to the Chiefs. Are they going to make the playoffs? It still looks like a long road ahead. They've taken one step to, resuming that kind of normalcy of having the Blues at the bottom of the New Zealand Conference, but even that is not a sure thing yet. Those teams play each other this coming weekend, so yeah, we'll see how that one goes between those two bottom teams in New Zealand. Next, in 11th and down 2 spots, I've got the Stormers. Now, it's a bit hard on the Stormers because they were on a bye, but a few teams around them won. So, when other teams go on the bye, they'll have a chance to make their way back, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles at the moment. Next, the Sharks. The Sharks are in 10th, and they are down 3 spots, and I did give them a wee bit of sneaky little credit. Like, I don't usually treat draws as a bonus or a detriment. I usually just kind of leave them even, but I figured getting a draw in Christchurch was worth something, but I can't do that for a loss. I know they played pretty decent at times. They could have beaten the Chiefs on another day, but they led in a couple of quick tries. And yeah, still not the finished article. So Tour of New Zealand is a draw and a loss with a bonus point, and Tour of Australia was a win. So still a decent tour for them to go back to South Africa with. But that's 2 weeks without a win, basically, in terms of power rankings. So that's where they're at. A team who hadn't had a win until recently was the Rebels. They are up 2 spots. Bad run they had been on. They finally broke it. They do well against Aussie teams. That is their thing. So, does that make them favourites for the Aussie Conference? I'll need to check all their fixtures to see how many Aussie opposition they've got left. But against Aussie opposition, they seem to do a pretty good job. So, job done for them. We'll see if they can kick on. Next are the Lions, up 1 spot from last week. Not convincing against the Waratahs. I didn't see that game in full, but I hear that they probably could have won by a bit more, but they still didn't. There was just a point in it, so it was pretty tight. If the Waratahs had nailed that drop goal, it could have easily been another loss. So, it's good to get a win. Important to get a win given where they were sitting, but still not looking the finished article either. Also up are the Highlanders. They're up 3 spots. They've had a couple of good wins in a row now, albeit at home. So kind of like the way the Rebels play well against Aussie teams, the Highlanders generally play pretty well at home. Can they get some away form going is another question. But hey, credit where it's due. 2 wins in a row. Take that all the way to the bank. And up 3 spots. Next, down 2 spots are the Bulls. Now, I know they played the Crusaders and they played the top team. But man, what a loss that was. That was really, really disappointing. They didn't even get close. They never looked like winning it. Crusaders far, far too good. At home, in front of a decent crowd, they should have been performing a lot better than that. They were not able to get it done. A bit of soul searching needed there. The Bulls will have to bounce back pretty quickly because that is a pretty devastating result for them and their fans for sure. Next, the Reds, and the Reds actually stick the same. They did lose, so I would normally drop them, but the Bulls result was that bad. They kind of beat them out to that 6th spot. So the Reds stay in 5th. It wasn't a bad loss for them either. It was an away loss, so I guess that's better than losing at home. But it ends their little good run. So we'll see how the Reds go from here. There's still a bit of time for them this season. A whole lot of teams that are there or thereabouts, and the Reds are still in the conversation. So that's probably more than we had expected from them before the season started. So, yep. Next, the Jaguares. They are down 1 spot after their loss in Dunedin. I know the fans were pretty unhappy, and the management of the Jaguares were pretty unhappy with the way that match was reffed towards the end of that game. I suppose they can still take a bit of credit from the fact that they got a losing bonus point, and they were right in that game right until the death. So by far from I think it was predicted to be a 14-point loss, so they did a lot better than they were expected to do, and perhaps that belies the fact that they are a pretty decent team this year and have been on a good run up until that point. Next, who would have thought the Brumbies would be here? How much of this is based on the conference system? I don't know. They did get a win over the Sunwolves, so how much credit do you give for that? I don't know. It was still 33-0, so if you're going to beat the Sunwolves, that's a pretty nice way to do it. Not all teams can do that. Just ask the Chiefs. But 4 out of their last 5. 4 out of their last 5 wins. The one loss, I think, was an away loss over in Argentina to the Jaguares. So the Brumbies are still in the conversation as well, top of the Aussie Conference. I thought they were dead and buried early on in the season, but they seem to be coming right. Their forward pack is very strong. They're giving a lot of teams trouble in that department, and their backs last week did a phenomenal job as well. So don't write the Brumbies off. Do I think the Brumbies are going to win Super Rugby? Probably not, but hey, if their forward pack gets going, they are going to cause some teams problems, and if their backs get unleashed as they did last week against the Sunwolves, then hey, happy days for all watchers. Same. Hurricanes are in 2nd spot. What else can you say? They got a win. It wasn't all that fancy, but it was gritty when it needed to be gritty. They held the Blues out very well at times when under the pump. So, they've never had any problems with their attacking game, and they showed elements of that as well in this one. Ben Lamb's try is a good example of that. But I guess adding a bit of mongrel to their game is something that they need, and they showed a bit of that. So maybe the Hurricanes can cause the Crusaders problems next time they meet. They haven't the last 2 times they met, or even before that. But this season anyway, it's not been good for them when they went up against the men in red. But still gives me a bit of hope that there's a decent challenge. But hey, when you see that Crusaders result over the Blues, man, are they good. They're so good. And I watched an interview today on the 1014 with Scott Robertson and Ronan O'Gara, and the way they talk, you can also see why they are so good. You should go check that video out on the 1014. But yeah, those guys are good. They ran right over in Pretoria. See if the Stormers have been able to identify any weaknesses in them. The Sharks did a pretty good job of that when they went to Christchurch, so we'll see if Robbie Fleck and his guys have got anything up their sleeve, but it is certainly a very tall order. You guys let me know your thoughts on the rankings. They have been a bit tricky in places. Like I said, so many teams are still there or thereabouts. A few of these teams probably from, I don't know, the Chiefs onwards. I'll have to double check the table, but maybe the Stormers, there's not that many points between so many of them, but you feel like a lot of them are only one more loss away from being done. But hey, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.